All right, and we are recording. So I'm going to go ahead and start this off. Thank you so much for joining us, Esther, Jon. It's me, Lori. So today we are doing a special thing for our contestants. It is we're doing an improv workshop. We wanted to do something fun for you guys. So every weekend in October, leading up to our finale, which will be on the 25th, we're going to do a fun workshop. Next week will be more informative. Same with the 18th because we'll be collecting materials, and then the 25th will be a fun pre-recorded finale. So it's gonna be great. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started with our improv workshop. We are welcoming Jon Jon Lannen. He is the improv guru, Sherpa master of all trades, professional. So, like I said in the email, he was the winner of Denver's Next Improv Star Season 3. He has taught comedy all over the nation. So he is one of the most talented people I know, and also my best friend. So, Jon, I will turn it over to you, and Esther and I will be your classmates for today, but I will send this out to our other contestants as well, because this is just for our contestants, an added bonus. So, yes, yay, contestants. So, Jon, all you.
Thank you, Lori. Okay, cool. This is really, really awesome. So I want to, of course, thank you both for joining the live version. And those of you guys who are joining later, hello. You can wave back. Hello. So I'm really excited to be back with the American Ambassador pageant system to be teaching another improv workshop. As you guys know, last year was so much fun. And unfortunately, we can't be together this year, but we can virtually. So what we're going to focus on today is improv comedy. And I want to do a couple different things. The first thing is give you guys a quick intro to improvisation. So those of you who are new to it, awesome. And those of you who may have had some experience, you guys get to have a little refresher while we do that piece. Then we're going to identify some of the similarities between improv and pageants. And then lastly, we're going to apply some of those tools to our life. It's like a lot of things to do in this short amount of time, but we are going to crank it out. So let's talk about what improv is. I'm going to turn it over to the class. In just a couple of words, can anyone tell me kind of what improv is to you?
Being right on time and that well, just first idea in your head. There we go.
Yeah, exactly. Doing the first thing that comes to mind, an improvised thing. There's things like improvised song, improvised dance. And what that means is there's no pre-planning as you go in. And as you guys know, a lot of what we do in the pageant world does involve a lot of planning and a lot of preparation. But there's a lot of other things that we can't identify before the pageant of what's going to happen. Right? We may know some of the questions, but not all the questions, right? We may know what's going to be required or what the stage is going to look like, but we might not actually know. We might think that our camera works the day we're doing a photo shoot, and it might not, right? So it's all about improvising as we go through life and these pageants as well, right? So that's why this is so pertinent to the pageant world. Improv is also something that you guys might have seen on TV. Improv comedy was probably most notably shown on television in Whose Line Is It Anyway, right? And that show hit a lot of different homes, and that's what's called short form improv comedy. And that's going to be some of the stuff that we work on today. It's going to be really interesting because I'm going to throw stuff out to you, and you're going to have to yell at a computer screen or a television screen. Which is kind of strange because we typically do this in real life. We would yell at each other. Oh my God, sounds like Thanksgiving. So what we're gonna do is do some improv comedy. We're gonna jump up on stage, we're gonna do some scenes, and then we're gonna talk about how we can apply those things to our pageants and life. And then lastly, we're gonna do a quick exercise about how important and unique you all are. So let's get started. All right, cool. So the couple things I want to throw out there about improv, it's very strange not having a group of people in front of me to be like spit on as I talk. But my pets are fine. They're enjoying it. Now, the most important thing about improv is probably group mind, is working as an ensemble. There's another thing called the yes and philosophy, which is adding and building upon ideas. Yes means you agree with something, and means you're going to build upon it, right? So we're going to talk about that a little bit later. A huge misconception about improv is we don't want to try to be funny. the funny happens, right? Think about some of the most hilarious times in your life, right? Whether that be on stage, while you're in a pageant, at home, holidays, whatever it may be. Think about that. And most of the time, those times that were the most hilarious, no one was trying to be funny, right? It was a circumstantial humor, which is really exciting. And then we want to make sure that we're listening and being present during improv, during life. Last but not least, we want to try to steer away from questions and making strong statements. All right. So a lot of people, when we do improv, we like to start off with warm-ups. Okay. So there's a couple different reasons us improvisers like to warm up, and they want to ensure that we're not warming up in the middle of a performance, right? And that's really important as you guys are doing your work as well, right? You're not probably answering the question for the first time in front of a judge, right? You're probably prepping and thinking about some of the questions you may get. So thinking about that. So that's why we do things called warm-ups, okay? And warm-up should be increasingly difficult as you warm up. If you are really good at answering a specific question and you nail it, try a more difficult question, right? Go into the more specifics. You know, I was really fascinated a couple years ago when I had heard some of these contestants answering the rodeo questions. I was like, holy moly, how are you so knowledgeable about it? But again, we all can always learn more, and that's what's exciting. So let's get right into the first warm up, which we're going to do a vocal warm up. Okay, we're going to warm up our mouths, and we're going to do this all together. Again, if you guys are watching later, you guys are going to do this with me, but it's very, very simple. Repeat after me. The big black bug. The big black bug. Bits the big brown bear. The big brown bear. And the big brown bear. And big brown bear. Bled blood. That's right. So it's the big black bug bit the big brown bear, and the big brown bear bled blood. Ready? We're going to all do it together now. We're going to go real slow. Ready? And the big black bug bit the big brown bear, and the big brown bear bled blood. Again, the big black bug bit the big brown bear, and the big brown bear bled blood. A little faster. The big black bug bit the big brown bear, and the big brown bear bled blood. Even faster. Big black bug bit the big brown bear, and the big brown bear bled blood. Big black bug bit the big brown bear, and the big brown bear bled blood. The big black bug bit the big brown bear, and the big brown bear bled blood. Slower. The big black bug bit the big brown bear, and the big brown bear bled blood. Even slower. The big black bug bit the big brown bear, and the big brown bear bled blood. Really enunciate. The big black bug bit the big brown bear, and the big brown bear bled blood. All right, clap for yourselves. Very nicely done. So that's difficult, right? Not all of them were easy for us, right? And you guys heard me, even some of them, I would chuckle through some of them, or I might get, you might not get every single word exactly right. But the key to those warm-ups is that you're warming yourself up. The other thing that I think is really important about warm-ups is if you're doing this warm-up, and I saw some of you guys participating, those of you later, it's really hard to not laugh at yourself while you're doing this, right? It's like, what am I'm talking in slow-mo. And if anyone is walking by me doing this right now, pre-recorded or live, we have to look crazy. But that's the fun about improv. And that's the fun about what we do as this work. So that was the very first warm-up, which is always really, really fun to just get your mouth moving. There's some other things that you may have heard in past theater classes or comedy courses. You guys can utilize something called red leather, yellow leather, right? It's really enunciating using that tongue, red leather, yellow leather. And then another really unique one is unique New York, unique New York. So if you want just quick ones to play in your head, I highly recommend this piece before pageant interviews. Just get your vocal, when you're talking, right? And sometimes the words don't come out like your thought is happening. You're like, That is not what I meant, but my brain knew exactly what I meant. So I recommend some vocal warm-ups before we do interviews. It's really helpful for me because I tend to talk quick and stumble on my words. So it's really important for me to take a minute and do that. The next thing we're going to do is a little game called word association. Word association is another really quick way for our brains to get going, those little synapses and cylinders going. For us to utilize. So we're going to do a thing called word association. All that's going to happen is I may say a word, and then you're going to associate any word that comes to mind after that. And then that next person is going to be inspired by the word you just said, and then say a new word. And then it's going to get just passed around. We're going to pass around for the three folks in this room with us now. So it's going to be very, very simple. I will begin. I'll pass it over to Esther. I will then Esther can pass it over to Lori. Lori will pass it back to me, and we'll just do a nice little word association game. All you have to do, no pressure at all, is think about a word that associates. Then what we're going to do is as we get practice, we're then going to add 2 or 3 invisible members so that people who watch it later can participate in the exact same word association game and they get to place after us. So, but before we do that, let us do some word association. Oh, it looks like Andrea is here as well. Hello, Andrea. Okay, so we're going to also go Andrea, Esther, Lori, me. Andrea, Esther, Lori, me. Okay, that's hopefully y'all remember what I just said. All right, cool. So I'm going to begin with any word at all, which is going to be chair. And now we're going to pass it over to Andrea for, is it Andrea or Andrea?
It's Andrea.
Andrea. Okay, cool. I could see. I gotta make sure. Andrea, then you will say any word that's associated with chair.
Okay. Chair. Sit.
Sit. Perfect. Then we'll pass it over to Esther. What do you think of when you hear sit?
Down.
Oh, yes. And then Lori.
Feather.
One more time.
Feather.
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 Down feather. Oh.
I like that.
I'm shopping for comforters.
You
Sorry.
see how your brain works.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna go pillow.
Sleep. Oh, sleep.
Yep.
Shape.
White.
Black.
Front.
Back.
Side.
Bottom.
Up.
Beverage.
Sprite.
Coca-Cola products. All dashes.
Thirsty.
Parched.
Desert.
Arizona.
Dry.
Desert.
Sun.
Sunlight.
Ceiling.
Floor.
Carpet.
And scene. Clap for yourselves. Very nicely done. What's so interesting about this is whether we wanted to or not, because we focus on the association of the words, we actually made a coherent something, right? What we can say is we talked about up, bottom, side to side, floor to ceiling, sunlight, chairs, and sleep. So really, if you think about what we just did, we just said a whole bunch of words. But I would go to say, we've just described a home. We've just described something you may do cleaning a home. What's really interesting is all we've done is associate words with that. Now what we're going to do is we're now going to do the same thing I just said, but between all of us is we're going to leave a blank. So as an example, I may say chair, and Andrea, is it Andrea? Tell me one more, Andrea.
That's fine. Don't worry.
It's the worst.
Blame
it's like
my mother. You can't.
do you have a nickname that people call you?
Drea.
Drea. Okay, I got that. Okay, Drea. So what's going to happen is I'm going to say sit, and Drea would have at this point said a word to associate. What she's actually going to do is say the word in her head, and then she's going to say another word. So the second word that comes to mind. And the reason we're doing that is because my word is going to associate with nobody, which is your first thing. Then you're going to come up with something new. This person who's watching at a later time gets to say theirs between ours. Oh my goodness, the digital world is crazy. Okay, so what we're going to do is we will simply do a simple word association, and I'll start with simple green.
Mowing.
Nice.
Mowing.
Perfect. So
Mowing.
perfect. Mowing, and then Esther, you're going to come up with one thing and then say the second thing on your mind.
Bad.
Nice. Same thing with Lori.
Did you say bed or bad?
Bed. B-E-D.
Okay. Sheets.
Laundry.
Whites.
Fold.
Temperature.
Nice. Clap for yourselves. Yay! Where is, you know what we need to do? One moment. One moment. Lori knows this too well as I destroy my bookshelf. Just one moment.
I already knew it was coming. I'm so excited.
Y'all,
Lori,
you
you having
can't
too much fun.
I want to have fun during the workshops too, okay?
all right, ready? Clap for yourselves. Oh, much better. Isn't that much better? Doesn't that feel nice? Did you guys hear the claps?
No.
No, you didn't? Okay, ready? Excellent. Okay, so now let's talk about that. That was a little bit more difficult than the first word association game, right? And why might that be?
You had to think more?
For sure, which is something that's so interesting. And you could tell all of us were cranking our brains a little bit more during the second time than the first time. And what's interesting is I would go to say too, not that anyone was intentionally doing this, but we had a lot less fun the second time. And the reason for that, as you just said, is because we overthought it, right? It was like, God, this is really difficult. But here's the deal. Even if it was the second word on our mind, couldn't we have just said the first word?
Yeah.
Would anyone have known
Nobody
that it
would
would
have
no
known.
right? I would have not been like, hey, Drea, that is not the second word you had on your mind. Like none of us would have any idea. So that's what I want you guys to all think about as you guys do these warm-ups and approach pageants, life, your jobs, our relationships, our friendships, thinking about that. As we think things more difficultly, as we put more thought into things, sometimes it can become more difficult. And as we put more thought into things, as we all have done, I'm a control freak. I tend to overthink some things, right? We have less fun. And that's a really important lesson to remember, especially in improv, right? Because as we jump on stage, an audience isn't necessarily coming to watch someone overthink something on stage. It's like, I have a really good line I'm about to give you all in just a second. Hold on, it's really funny. Give me a second, it's hilarious. Hold up, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, and here it is, right? None of us would watch a comedy show like that. And it's interesting because a lot of us do that in our day-to-day life. So remember that, especially as we approach pageants, doing interviews, essays, things like that, have fun. Because all of us love to have fun, and that reads. I think fun is so uber contagious, and I think that's an important lesson to remember, especially as we learn. Right? There's going to be growing pains. It's going to be difficult. But again, none of us would have any idea if we knew the second word. It's like, really? I don't think sheets was your second word. I don't think that was true at all. Right? Of course, we have no idea. And so that's what we're going to do now. Now we're going to do a little bit more coherent version of word association. And we call this one word story. With one word story, we really want to create sentences. We want to make coherent sentences. So one thing to remember as we start the game is we want to remember the easy words like the, that, but, and we also want to be comfortable with starting a new sentence. For example, I went to the store. That could be period, right? But some things we sometimes do. I went to the store and bought some bologna and then walked my dog and grabbed a cart. It's like we could end it on it's cool. Like you could just go to the store, right? And that's okay. But it's that thought where like we're just going to keep creating as opposed to being totally cool with that sentence. I went to the store is totally cool because now we can build on it. What happened at the store? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do chapters in a book. But what I need help from you all is because it's a totally made up story, can I please get a suggestion from any one of you for a noun? So that's a person, place, or thing, a noun.
Voting booth.
Voting booth, I love that. So voting booth is the noun. Now, I set myself up for this one. Can I please get an adjective to describe that noun? So an adjective, a descriptive word to describe the voting booth.
Scary.
Scary. I mean, that's very applicable. Yeah. So we're going to go the scary voting booth, chapter 1. We're going to go in that exact same order, and I will simply begin with once.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
Still on mute.
Thought I clicked it. I apologize. Say that one more time.
No worries. So the book is going to be the scary voting booth, and my first word for you is once.
Once I left the house.
Sorry, one more time. So you're only going to give me one word for the chapter.
Oh, one word.
Yep.
One.
So I'm going to say, yep. So the chapter 1, and I'll say once.
Once again.
Yes. Then it goes to Esther. Once again.
We
Are
at
The
time
to
elect
our
leader
of
the
United
state
today
is
my
favorite
holiday
because
I
get
to
vote. Chapter 2. You may begin.
the
people
are
Pissed.
because
lines
will
be
long
and
they
will
have
many
people
in
the
way
yes
scary
people
will
bother
me
and
I
will
cartwheel
Chapter 3. Cartwheeling
is
magical
and
so
fun
But
I
Fell.
Down.
Oh.
it
hurt
As
Much.
as
a
vote.
Wow.
Chapter 4.
Today
isn't
the
End
of
democracy.
oh, you read my mind, dang it. Tomorrow
is
my
Oh,
I like being in this.
turn.
to
vote. Chapter 5, final chapter.
Ballots
Tallied,
booth
Become
known.
for
amazing
elections.
We
like
to
Vote.
party
and
vote
For
our
favorite
the
candidate.
end. Clap for yourself. Now, although that was silly and very, very simple, we actually put together a very coherent story about someone who's voting. It's their favorite day. They cartwheel. They believe the falling of a cartwheel hurts as bad as voting, but they're excited to vote. Isn't that interesting that that became the scary voting booth, the story? Again, together, and this is why I'm so passionate. You guys will notice I get very passionate about this subject of improv, is group mind. When we work together, I believe more can be achieved, whether it be life, work, pageants, comedy, art, whatever it may be. And I just genuinely believe that. And if we need any proof, we just did it right now. We just created a very coherent, simple story about the scary voting booth, right? We didn't get even specific about what and who. What's interesting is this story we just told, we could have had the exact same story told 50 years ago, right? It wasn't specific enough where it was at what we were talking about now. It was also broad enough that it could have been talked about in 50 years from now, pending there's an earth. But I kid, but that's really the truth, right? We kept it generic enough, but specific enough, and we all had fun with it because it was so simply ridiculous. This person who's cartwheeling and going to the polls. And again, as we do this more, we really can put together an even more coherent story. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do that same game, but we're going to try to stay on this beat. The store was very lovely, and I bought a gown. And it's going to be tough, but I really want us to practice that pattern of getting it into a story, because as we think less, it'll make more sense. Okay, so can I please get a noun, a person, place, or thing?
Tissue.
Tissue, yes, yes, thank you. And an adjective to describe that tissue. I'm not sure why tissue made me go British, but tissue.
Lovely.
The lovely tissue. Chapter 1. I'm not going to clap, but think about that pattern in your brains. The lovely tissue, chapter 1. The
Okay. Wait. Start over.
okay, cool. The lovely tissue. The
Tissue.
4
Me.
is
Clean.
and
Moisturizing.
Kleenex.
Is
4
My.
Nosies.
not
4
My.
Booties.
however
when
Good.
I.
Use
it
I
Like.
to
sneeze.
and
I.
really
Like
blowing
My.
nose.
every
day
Sometimes.
Even
twice.
a
Day.
blowing.
Is
fun
To.
Do
but
if
I.
don't
it
huh
if
if
I
you don't it
Mhm.
Will.
become.
horrible.
Yes. Yes, it does. Chapter 2. We all know that's what happens with Kleenex. Chapter 2, let us begin with the
Kleenex
is
Not.
a
toy.
it
Is.
a
Tool.
that
I.
need
To
use
In.
my
life.
and
I.
will
Use
it
Daily.
if
minuses.
clog
Like.
mine
Does
then
I.
will
use
the
Tissue.
whenever
I
sneeze
Oh, sorry. I.
sorry, what was it? Whenever I
sneeze
Sneeze.
I.
And then I
So
said
I
I.
was before you.
sorry, one more time.
whenever I sneeze I
Become
Loud.
and
My.
life
Is
horrible
chapter 3
Tomorrow.
will
be
a
Great.
day
if
I
Don't.
sneeze
but
when
I.
sneeze
I
will
Cry.
chapter 4 and final chapter nightly
I
feel
Bad.
because
I
don't
Like.
my
knows
it
Is.
mine
not
yours
Yay.
my
tissue
is
Lovely.
Clap for yourselves. Very nicely done. So again, a little bit more difficult. And notice, as we talked about that, the exact same thing happened, including in my brain and all of our brains, because we had to put together a story and we had the time constraint. It became a little bit more work. Although a very coherent story, you guys all, I think, can agree with me, it felt like a little bit more work doing that scene. So that's like, all right, so we're getting there. We're getting there. Very, very exciting. So now what we're going to do, one thing I want to talk about very briefly, we're not going to have much time to run through these, but I really love these because it really helps warm you up as well. Get your brain out of what you need to do. I recommend doing this, especially before a job interview and things like that. I know it sounds silly, but it's something called 3-line scenes. You can do it with a partner or you could do it with yourself. And it's a really helpful tool. And what you do is you essentially have 2 characters. So you, in an improv class, we could do this with 2 physical people. One person will stand on stage right and the other on stage left. One person will initiate the line of dialogue. The one thing that's really important, like we talked about earlier in improv, and I think this is important to take away everywhere, is I think questions are very important. However, I think when you know the answer, making a declarative statement is really helpful, right? I notice it's very helpful in my relationship when I make a declarative statement about dinner choice, right? And right, because it's if we ask questions, it becomes this like long or the crazy things like, well, then we aren't going to decide what's dinner, and this, as opposed to like, you know, today I think Chipotle sounds good. Does that sound good to you? Now that's made a declarative statement and a kind of a question at the end, but that's the kind of stuff we're looking for in improv. So making strong declarative statement over here. Then we want to have a response statement. The response statement wants to be in the vein of yes and. You want to hear what this person is saying and build upon that line of dialogue. Then the third line will be responding to it. So it's just 2 people, 3 lines. A, B, A. Right? And I'll give you guys an example of a really terrible scene that I was a part of years ago. And it's this 3-line scene. So it was simply, I came in the scene and I said, "You broke the head off my Mulan Barbie." Hilarious, I know. No, I'm kidding. So, but I made a declarative statement. And so we can make some assumptions about that, right? What might be some assumptions about my character who walks in and said, "You broke my Mulan Barbie"?
That wasn't your Barbie. It was my Mulan Barbie.
Yes, exactly. So that's clear. It's clearly someone's Mulan Barbie. What can I say about our relationship if we're playing with Barbies? How old are we probably?
6 to 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. 6 to 8 young kids. And are we probably siblings or friends?
Siblings.
Siblings.
Right. And so we've established that with 1 line of dialogue, right? And think about when you are in your life, you don't say when you're in the middle of your kitchen with your husband, you don't say, "I am unloading the dishwasher right now and you are my husband." No, but that's established, right? You all know that. We all know that. So think about how your conversation happens, right? It might be something more on the lines of, "Oh my gosh, Trish was crazy at work today. I don't know what her deal was. God, I love these glasses. They're gorgeous, aren't they?" Now we've established that I'm in probably my kitchen, I'm holding a glass, I'm talking about my workday, which you probably only do with a certain select group of people, friends, family, and your relationships, right? Or a therapist, right? But if you're going through your therapist's home, that might not be such a good answer. But it's possible and plausible. So that's what I want you guys to think about as you do 3-line scenes, making a declarative statement, response statement, and something coming back. So I'll share that bad scene with you again. I walked in, I said, "You broke the head off my Mulan Barbie." This person turned to me and said, "That's not a Mulan Barbie, that's a block of cheese." Oh, oh, okay. So okay, it's definitely nothing I've established. And now I'm holding this Barbie like this. And again, my point to this is any line of dialogue
Make
that
it
didn't negate that. Yeah, exactly. Would have made it right. But what you've just now established is one of 2 things. Either A, I'm an actor who doesn't have it together, or I'm a crazy person in the scene who is playing with cheese that might be shaped like a Barbie, right? And that's the route we would have to go. But some better ways is like Lori said earlier. You broke the head off my Mulan Barbie. That's not your Mulan Barbie, that's my Mulan Barbie, right? Or what if we went even further, right? What if a parent was speaking to that child? You broke the head off my Mulan Barbie. Yes, I did, Gladys, and that's because you got a B in mathematics. Now that tells us everything we need to know. The mom is breaking off Barbie's heads because of grades? That's crazy to me, right? But it establishes a rule. It may be something as simple as, you broke the head off my Mulan Barbie. Yeah, I did break the head off your Mulan Barbie because I'm mad at you. It could be literally that simple, right? And so thinking about things like that. A secondary one I want you guys to think about, and again, sorry, to flip on the last scene then, as you establish that, let's go down any one of those lines of dialogue. You broke the head off my Mulan Barbie. That's not your Mulan Barbie, that's mine. Now, how might I respond that isn't the same lines of dialogue to this? And here's a thought that I may have. If someone says that, what if I say something on the lines of, you always say that when I get a new toy? Now we've established an additional piece of information in 3 lines of dialogue. You broke the head off my Mulan Barbie. That's not your Mulan Barbie. You do that every time I get a new toy. So what does that tell us about the relationship? It tells us that there's some sort of sibling rivalry. One sibling may be upset because another sibling gets the toy. And guess what? All of us probably associate based on our, I'm gonna call it hierarchy in the family, where you would stand. Would I talk to my older brother like that? Would I talk to my younger sister like that? So now we've established that. Who may be the one that's breaking the head off the Barbie, the older or the younger sibling?
Older.
Older. And what we can now do is with the older, think about how much more specific we can get with character. It can be a 6 and 8-year-old versus a 8 and 10-year-old. But what if we up the ante? What if it was a 17-year-old sibling? How hilarious. It's bad, yes, but how hilarious does this scene become? This 17-year-old is ripping the head off of Mulan Barbie because her younger sister is getting Barbies. But now we have a story, right? Now let's think about that teenager. Why might that teenager be so mad that the younger sister is getting Mulan Barbies?
Because she's not getting what she wants, or
She's not, yeah. She or she's not getting what he or they want. Exactly right. But that's exactly right. So now what I'm saying is with those 3 lines of dialogue, think about all the story we've created. All of that happened with 3 very, very simple lines of dialogue. So thinking about that. So I'm going to throw that one out the window, keep that one in the top of mind, and then think about this line of dialogue. Harold, dinner's ready. Now, that could be a very simple line of dialogue. Harold, dinner is ready. Yep, I already ate. Yep, and we could speak about, I love that you said I already ate. So that could tell us 2 things. Now I'm going to take it one step deeper. What if your response was this? Harold, dinner's ready. Teresa, you're cooking for me? So you and I, we're okay now? Now what we've done with the scene, right, is created such depth because all we did was the importance of dinner. And I love what you said too, is if we wanted to take the scene a different route, we could have taken it that route. If we wanted to create, because improv scenes often happen to 1 of 2 things. It's the day the S hits the fan or conflict, or a day in the life. But those are 2 scenes we see all the time. It's either a day in the life or the day that it hits the fan. And what if that was the day? Dinner's ready, I already ate. How can I make I already ate the most important line of dialogue to me? What if I then throw the pan and just start weeping? Now, we have no idea why, but dinner is very important to Teresa. Why is it not important to Harold? So that's what I'm saying, those 3 lines of dialogue, think about that. And if you guys want another cool exercise to think about is zoom in on any part of your life, zoop, 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 and think about and watch yourself do 3 lines of dialogue with anyone in your life. And with that being said, can you know who you're talking to? If I say something like this, oh, hi, sweetheart, it's so good to see you. I've missed you all day. I'm probably talking to my dog, right? If I talk to my spouse like that, that might be a little bit differently, right? Also, I know y'all wouldn't be surprised if I did that either. Let's just be honest, right? Or how you speak to maybe, how I speak to my boss is going to be substantially different to how I speak to my mom, right? So think about that stuff. It's really interesting how we approach those. And that stuff is so cool for a scene. So again, declarative statements. What can you say that's just on your mind? I'm looking at a laptop. What can be my declarative statement about the laptop? I hate when the laptop doesn't work. IT frustrates me. Now I've just started a scene. I might be talking to the manager of IT in this scene, or I might be talking to my boss, or I might be talking to my spouse about how frustrated I am at work, whatever it may be, right? But thinking about those and giving depth to those. So now what we're going to do, I want you guys to practice that, especially if you guys have anyone in the household. That's a great exercise to do with them, along with in front of a mirror, and really shift your face and expressions as you're a different character. You might look crazy to your children, spouses, family members walking by the bathroom, but it's a really great exercise. She's okay over there? I don't know, just keep walking. So the last and final exercise I want to do with you all is something that I've been doing since I was in Chicago, and I think it's a really great exercise to teach a couple of different things. I will be honest with you, it is a little bit strange, especially given the digital world. But what I would like you to do is I'd like you to become comfortable in a space that you're in now. So if you can hear my voice, if you're near a couch, that's cool. If you want to just lounge in where you're sitting now in your chair, that's cool. But the key here is I want you to get comfortable, relaxed, as unhinged as you possibly can. But I understand we're also like human beings looking at each other like that's cool. But like whatever it is, like this might be a comfortable for me, which I know is crazy, but that might be because then I don't have to focus on anything. But if you're at home, if you need some time, folks, if you're at home, just shake it off. But yeah, just like get real lazy on it and just relax. Because what we're going to do now is a really unique exercise. And it's going to take a little trust on all of our behalf, and it's going to feel a little silly. But here's what we're going to do. What I would like you all to do is simply close your eyes. Close your eyes and focus on your breathing. Hear yourself breathing in, and hear yourself breathing out. And just focus on that piece for now. Breathing in and out. I'm going to allow you guys just a few seconds to just do that for a moment. As you continue breathing, I'd like you to breathe in, and as you breathe in, I'd like you to try to tense up as many muscles in your body as possible and release them when you exhale. And release. Breathe in and release. Continuing focus on your breathing, I want you to feel the temperature of your breath. Simply breathing in and breathing out. That temperature of breath is an important piece to this next exercise. I want you to feel that breath cooling down a little bit. The temperature is dropping, and I want you to feel the difference in your breathing as your environment changes. You are in a hallway, a hallway, a long hallway, and it's a little chilly. If you aren't, you begin walking. Go ahead, walk down this hallway in your imagination. Breathe in, out, Look over to your left. Look over to your right. What do the walls look like in this hallway, this tunnel? As you walk, you begin to look forward. You see a bright light, but you look back down, look at the floor, the ground, and your pace. Look back up. Your pace is beginning to get a little faster. How does that shift your breathing? Continue walking. You see that light. That light is getting bigger, so keep walking. You're going to walk a little bit faster. You're picking up the pace, and you really are hearing the environment in which you're in. You're going all the way down, and as you're getting closer to that light, keep running, keep running, keep running. You see that it's a door. Keep getting to that door. Run, run, run to that door. And when you get to the door, stop. But get there. Focus on your breathing. Is it heavier? Is it lighter? Is it shorter? Is it longer? Look at the door in front of you. Is there a handle? Is there a latch? Just hold that for a second. Does that change your temperature? I want you to open the door, and inside that room is a desk and a bookshelf. If you haven't done so, you can walk in. What's your mood like in this place? What is your breathing like in this place? What does that bookshelf look like? What's on that bookshelf? Look at the desk. There's something about the desk that's really unique. What is on that desk? Take a look. Look a little closer, and something changes in your mood. I don't know what you got to get out. I don't know what changed just now, but you've got to get out of the room, and I need you to get out of the office right now. And when you shut that door, I want you to open your eyes. All right. I'm going to give you all a few more seconds if you need.
You turned it down?
Good stuff. So is everyone back in the world? Okay, cool. I can't see you all, so if you guys have your eyes open, now we will begin a little bit. So let's talk about that. So you guys did a really nice job, but before we get into kind of the specifics, let's talk about, did anyone have a tough time at first?
I did.
Talk to me about that.
So
And there's nothing wrong with that, to be clear.
I'm not a yoga meditating type of person. So every time I go into that space, it takes me a minute to let go.
For sure. It's interesting you say that. I'm very similar in that it's really hard to not judge yourself in that moment either, right? I think you're exactly right. It's a tough part if you're an everyday person, it's really tough to get into that mindset. And it's like, okay, what the hell am I doing? I'm breathing in and out. Okay, yeah, I get it. But what's interesting is you allowed yourself to get there. And some people don't, and that's okay. I have done this exercise, guys, which is really, really hilarious. People have fallen asleep during this exercise, right? That it was just they focus on their breathing for the first time in a long time, and they're just asleep for the whole time. And that's okay too. Other people have a really tough time and they might not get into it at the very end. But did everyone get to the point in the hallway? Let's talk about that. I really want to open up the dialogue to the group. When you were in the hallway, what did you see? Let's describe what you saw. Are people muted?
My mouse turned off. Sorry about that.
No worries. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the hallway. What did everyone see in the hallway?
Um, Mine had like art on the walls, and then the floor was like really shiny, like marble.
Marble floor and interesting. So can you describe some of the frames the art was in?
The frames like almost like a museum with like the fancy frames and stuff like that. So like bronze or gold or whatever.
Yep, I was gonna say that bronze kind of like crown molding frame,
Yeah.
that, yeah, wow, very fancy tunnel slash hallway for you. And describe the light for me. What was the light like in there?
So it was dark in the hallway, but the only light I saw was from the door, which was coming from a keyhole.
Oh, interesting. Now, were the lights turned off in this hallway, or were they just dim?
I think the lights were, it was turned off, but like sunlight was coming through somewhere.
Interesting. So did it give you any spooky vibes?
No.
More uplifting, happy vibes. So talk to me about your breathing. What was the temperature in there?
It was probably a little bit warmer than my apartment right now. So, because I'm at
Okay, cool. So 150 degrees.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's outside of your apartment. Very fun. So cool. So we're gonna get back to that. What about the other two? What did your hallway look like? Let's talk about the hallway. I think your hallway is really interesting, but I don't know that that's everyone's vision of the hallway or tunnel.
My hallway was, it was a cement floor, but it had a gloss over it, a gloss coating, and the wall was brick. It was like in elementary school, if you know the green tile, and then it fed into actual red brick. So it was just weird. It was two different textures. And then there was kids art, but it wasn't kids art, but it was kid-like art on the wall. Actually, what it was, it was my coaching clients' art when they were remembering traumatic experiences in their life, not to be specific.
Interesting. So
but it looked
that was
like
what
kids'
was.
art.
So that was hanging down the walls. Now, describe how those were hung on the walls. Were they on tape? Were they?
Yeah.
Walk me
They were more
through
like what
tape.
they would be in an elementary school. They weren't in any fancy frames or anything. And they kind of, the paper was turned in a little bit, curled on the edges.
Interesting. And when I look over to the tile into brick, why might that be?
I don't know. That's just what I saw, but I don't know. I don't know.
Perfect. Was there any like real world association you made to it? Like, oh, that's because this was an add-on to the building, or they're trying to renovate?
I not for that particular thing, no, but the
Okay.
entire experience was, I was trying not to go into creating the story, but experiencing it, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
How
because
do
yeah.
What was your energy like and the temperature while you're walking through that hallway? And what
It
was your
got
pace?
it got cool. My breath sped up. Yeah, my breath sped up and it got cooler. So
Isn't it interesting what our mind can do based on an imaginary environment that, again, to your point and everyone's point, it's direct association of our life, whether we want to or not. And I'm going to get to why that's so important in a bit. But very nice. Any other call outs you'd like to mention about your hallway before we get to the door?
no,
Nice.
that's about it.
Nice. Very nice. And what about for you? What did your hallway look like?
So, like I said, it took me a minute to get in tune to it. So at first I didn't see the walls. So the walls were like almost not there. I was just walking in darkness. And then as you start talking about it was cold, I saw glass. And as we
Wow.
got closer to the door, the glass started breaking down. So it was like almost like, yeah, it was almost like something, like it was so cold that the glass was breaking or the ice was breaking. It just, that's how it felt like. It felt like that. And so there were like, you know, in the middle, it were like, you know, the card, what do they call them? The lights that's on the wall. I forgot what they call those things. But those little like
Huh?
candle lights on the wall. And then they just, once the wall started going, there was no light.
Wow. They're like, that's wild. So you really I don't want to say latched onto, but you really associated the cold with your environment, which is really interesting that the glass was literally breaking. So with that being said, what did that make you feel? What was the feeling as stuff was breaking? Urgent, calm, this happens usually? Kind of walk me through that feeling.
Um, I want I sped up, so
You're like, this is not okay. This is not
this is
supposed to
not
happen.
okay. We're getting out of here.
That's funny. As I told you all to pick up the pace, what was that feeling? So you were like, I gotta get out of here. What were
I
some
was
other
wrong.
feelings? I would be too. If the walls are breaking because of the cold, I am out of there. I am not stopping. So, but walk me through all of you guys. What was the feeling? So yours was urgency to get the heck out. What were some other feelings as you sped up to the door?
I was impatient because it was a long hallway, and I was like, I don't want to keep walking. I'm gonna run and get to the door because I want to see what's inside.
Yeah, definitely.
I walked faster, but I don't think I felt anything. I just was being obedient.
Nice. That's interesting, right? It's interesting how we take the prompts, right? And so good. Now we get to the door. Very briefly, let's talk about some words to describe your doors.
I rock. Mine was wood.
Nice. What
Wood
color
with
wood?
a
Like,
black doorknob. I don't know what that was about.
okay. And what was that? Was it like a cherry wood, or like a
Yeah,
mahogany wood?
like a dark cherry wood.
Dark cherry wood is do you feel like it was an older door, newer door?
Felt like an older door. Yeah,
Older door. Okay. And a black, what was a doorknob like this, or was it a doorknob like that?
it was a turn.
The turn one. Okay. Any locks on it?
No, it opened right up. Nothing hindering.
Interesting. And where did the light come from the door that you remember?
It was like on the side of the door, so it's like because the walls were falling out, right?
So basically, yeah.
So there was like nothing around, and that was that room where the books were was another. It was like in the library where you can. It was like
Uh-huh.
that. So it was
Interesting. So I'm going to get to everyone else's door, but you hit something very interesting to me. So you said books. So there was books on your bookshelf?
yeah.
Walk me through that. What was on your bookshelf? Describe the room for me.
So there were all types of books. There were books. They were mostly I couldn't make out like the words, but they were older books. And the
Hmm.
room was obviously a room that they're preserving these books. That's what it felt like.
Oh, kind of like an real old school home, a room. Now, was there a desk in there too? What did the desk look like?
There was a desk. There was an older desk. The room was totally different than the hallway. It was like a whole different house or building or something. But
It was just,
yeah, it was very kind. It was a big giant. I don't know. I felt like I was in a law library when I went in there. So
oh, interesting. So when you felt and saw something, what was the feeling that you needed to get out? What was the thing that you saw?
there was someone sitting
Anything?
at the chair.
There was someone in the chair, and so you got out.
Uh-huh.
Wow, that's fascinating, and we're going to come back to that in just a second. I'm gonna turn it over to Esther. Esther, what were some of the things that you saw at your door? Talk to me, kind of where the light came through, and then what happened when you were in the what we're calling, I guess, the office with the bookshelf and desks
I
or
don't
desk.
know that I remember light, but the door was a vault door like you have at a bank.
Wow,
So yeah, so
metal as
big.
well.
Yeah, it was metal, but it had the big turning wheel on it and everything that you have to do to get into it. And then inside it was an office. It had more than one bookshelf. It was all of my books. I'm a bibliophile in real life. So yeah, I love books, lots of them, and I have them. And so
That's awesome.
they're right now, they're packed up in boxes. And so it was just a very rewarding experience to be able to see them again. So I didn't want to leave when you told me I had to leave. And so my emotion was a little disappointed. But I left. The desk was thebomb.com. I do paint pouring, and it was like this marbly looking thing, but it was clear so I could see my feet. Like in the middle, it was
Ah,
clear so I could see my feet through it. So it was really abstractly artsy, pretty.
that's awesome. When you saw your feet through it, what shoes were you wearing?
I didn't pay attention, but now that I think about it, I might have had heels on.
Uh-huh.
I might have, yeah.
Interesting. And what color was the furniture and the bookshelves?
Um, just basic wood. It was not like a special wood. They were nice, but they were sleek. They weren't
Okay.
ornate or anything. Yeah.
Nice, very good. Yeah, clean lines, got it.
Mhm.
And so what's interesting is that's behind a vault. I love that. That's really unique. And it's interesting where everyone's mind and pictures went as we go down this hallway. And what's interesting is the door almost doesn't fit with the hallway, and that's totally okay. It's like, or even the room. What's really interesting is what we associate in the room. And I just think that's wicked cool. What about for you, Lori? What was the door like? And then talk to me a little bit about the room itself.
So honestly, my door is like the same as Andrea's, but I had that keyhole in the door, so that's where the light was coming in. And then once I went into the room, it was like a huge room, and it like the wall. Well, it was a window. It was a big window to my left, and then there was bookshelves on the in front of me and behind me, and they just stretched up all the way to the ceiling. They were filled with books, and I was like, I felt like I was in Beauty and the Beast.
Yes. What's fascinating about all three of you that did this exercise, and again, those of you who are doing this after the fact, how many of you associated actual books on the bookshelf? So now I'm going to take a step back and I want to be very clear about what this prompt was. Although we got so specific, you guys, the prompts and things that I provided you all were very simplistic. I had you focus on breathing, the temperature of breath, and then if you recall and are listening, or you could replay this, I've asked you to go down a hallway or tunnel. I told you to look at the walls, down. I asked you to associate a door and a light. I then told you to open this door, and the only thing I asked you to do was tell me about or see a bookshelf and a desk. So to be very clear, all that was asked in this prompt was a hallway, a light, a door, a bookshelf, and a desk. And you created all of that magic with those 5 very, very simple prompts. And the reason I harp on that so deeply is because of my next point. Every single one of you who's in this class right now, and I'm looking dead in the eye, and everyone who's watching outside of this class, you are very special. You are very unique. And I wouldn't look you dead in the eye and lie to you. I mean that. And if you need a reminder for how special and unique you are, close your eyes and walk down a hallway. I love you guys. Thank you for joining me today. This was a lot of fun. And yeah, thanks again, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Awesome.
you guys were awesome.
I'm going to stop the recording.